I think I'll leave you there, Ronnie.
Hey, Ronald.
Hey, Ronnie.
Together, we are the Rons.
Ronnie, do you remember when you got pooped on?
First off, I didn't get pooped on. And you're referring to that time we were climbing up in that treehouse. And I do remember that. So we were at the end of our street, we had this really tall treehouse that was built by some high schoolers.
Yeah.
So I'm going first and we start climbing up and we're about probably half or 2/3 of the way up there. And all of a sudden we hear these screaming, "Get off the treehouse!"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And we had no idea that there was anybody up there. We just thought, hey, cool treehouse. We're gonna climb up there. And then they sprung on us.
oh yeah.
And
So these kids come out. I look up because I'm in front, and all I see is what can only be described as the chocolate starfish of a teenager. It was the most uncomfortable thing. Literally, there was a kid bent over, pants down, pooping. Like,
yes.
Who does this?
Yes. Fortunately, just luck would have it, I was a good few feet away. I saw the poop hit the ground, and I waited to get Ronnie out of there, and we hightailed it out of there. But tree houses, that is a topic.
Yes.
I think we need to talk about that.
Man, I don't get it. Like, tree houses are a real thing now. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, I even think they have shows dedicated to people building these elaborate tree houses. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's bizarre to me. Like,
It's a real deal. So Ronnie, I don't know if I told you this story, but so I sat next to CeeLo Green, the real CeeLo Green.
I don't know this story.
Which was supposed to be a 6-hour flight from Atlanta to Seattle, a nonstop flight, but it got delayed because of weather or maintenance or something like that. And so we were sitting on the ground for a couple hours, and CeeLo actually had a cold at the time, and he started on these hot toddies, like as the moment that the flight attendant was willing to give him some. And so, but he was chatty. I don't know if it was the hot toddies or maybe just CeeLo Green. I haven't hung out with him since then, but he was pretty chatty. I was on the way to work. I had to get some work done, but I was like, you know what? This might be a once in a lifetime opportunity. So what was he doing? He was flying to Seattle to be on Treehouse Masters.
Get out of
yes, because he was going to help deck out a treehouse to be a recording studio. So who are you going to have on that? You're going to have CeeLo Green. Check out that Tree Masters episode. Check it out on YouTube. Actually, we can provide the link. You can actually tell he has a bit of a hoarse voice during that episode because he has a cold.
That's a cool story. I didn't know that. But you know, the thing about tree houses that I just don't get, like, so CeeLo goes and makes a recording studio in a treehouse. Okay, that's not real.
Yeah.
Like, real people aren't putting recording studios in a tree. You know, they're building it for their kids. They're building it for maybe in their yard, maybe in their neighborhood. Like, tree houses look good for a brief moment, because CeeLo's probably has doors and windows and air conditioning and climate control. Most tree houses don't, right?
Right. Well, it just so happens that when we had our treehouse built, we had the local treehouse expert build it for us, and he has agreed to meet with us and give us his perspective of why.
Really?
Yes.
How many tree houses do you think you've built over these years?
Probably about 500 maybe.
Wow.
So many people nowadays, it's kind of like a status symbol that I got this tree house, or I got it all decked out with all these things, but really it should be about just getting the kids outside in nature. And I put a tree house in my backyard. You know, my strategy was, okay, just put as many little activities out there so maybe our kids would hang out, you know, be at home. But sometimes I wonder, is like the treehouse more about the adults reliving their childhoods, or really about the children having fun outside?
You know, a lot of the conversation is being driven by the parents' kind of vision for the treehouse, but how often do they actually get their kids involved to like pick the pieces and parts? Okay.
Well, I get the kids
interesting.
involved because I say, when I talk to them, go through 3 steps. 1, list everything you'd want if budget or physical reality were not factors. So your one kid says, I want a tree house in the shape of a pirate ship, 3 stories tall. And then your other kid says, I want a zip line going out of my bedroom window, landing on the pirate ship. Just write everything down.
Yeah.
And then the second step is prioritize. Do you want more treehouse deck where they can write the great American novel when they're 13? Or do you want more active Ninja Warrior stuff, climbing walls? And, oh, and have them draw some sketches.
Treehouses, when I think of a treehouse, all I think of, especially as a parent, I think of, okay, here's a place where bees are gonna make nests, spiders are gonna put webs, rusty nails. Like, think of the dangers that lurk inside of a treehouse. It doesn't make sense to me why you would put your kid, you know, it's for your kid, and all of a sudden you're putting them in this place of torture.
When I was growing up, my dad, you know, maybe strategically, we didn't have trees in our backyard, but my dad helped me build like a fort that was near the ground. We called it a fort because it technically wasn't a tree house. It wasn't in a tree, so I would have something like that.
So I have a daughter. You have a daughter.
Yeah, like, I got 3 of them actually.
When I think of a tree house, yeah, it might be cute when they're 7 or 8. You know what I think of when they're older? Is a place for boys to take my girls and do bad things to. Like tree houses? No. And I only know that because I'm a boy. And there were a lot of tree houses in Alaska. And boys have bad intentions.
Golly, man, I hadn't really thought about when I put that with that treehouse. But it is kind of open air, you know. And then you know, I'm not opposed to the idea of putting cameras out there or whatever, you know, and letting them know that there's cameras everywhere, even if there aren't really cameras out there. You can. That's a strategy to keep the teenagers.
Yes, I like that strategy.
When the teenagers have that privacy out there, you know, there's some things that may happen out there that maybe you don't want to happen. Actually.
No, my son got his treehouse when he was 8. But then when he got to get 13, he started having friends over. And I'm sure he had his first this, and his first that.
That's what we were just talking about.
You know, if he's going to get caught drinking a beer or smoking a cigarette or worse, it's better to have it done in the treehouse by us than by a cop behind Car Drugstore.
Treehouses, there is this infatuation, but you know, you brought up earlier, is it about the adults or is it about the kids? I think what ends up happening is that adults think back to all the things they didn't have as a kid. They're only thinking about it though, as it's perfectly done, that photo-ready thing. They're not thinking about the upkeep. I mean, it's like having another house.
Oh yeah.
You gotta stain the thing or paint the thing.
Oh yeah, and then you have leaves and dust. You want to clean it up because then the kids don't even want to play with it. Yeah, maybe I just need to be better about getting my kids to actually do those kind of chores around there. But I think you make a really good point about making the treehouse because, you know, I got my kids involved with the process, which, you know, I think it's a good thought process. You're making it for the kids. Why not have the kids be part of this thing? But the reality is that we had those old rickety forts that we really shouldn't have been getting in because those things could have collapsed anytime they were built by teenagers and middle schoolers. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I'm gonna build something that my kids are gonna go into, this thing is gonna be, you know, pretty sturdy.
What I'd like to see is if Ronnie can actually slide down a fireman's pole.
I would actually like to see that too. No! You didn't slide. Like, what is the point to go into a treehouse? Like, like, if you don't put furniture in there, are you just sitting on the floor and doing what? So if you say to your kids, so think about it, when we were kids, we didn't have phones or all these other distractions that are out there. So you're gonna say to your kid, hey, go play in the treehouse. Like, so go play your phone in the treehouse is really what you're telling your kid.
So I think of a treehouse as a room of her own or a room of his own, so that when the kids are 2, 4, and 6, you know, one day they're pirates and the next day they're astronauts, and you know, they're getting into their imaginations as well as their bodies. And then, when they get to be 8, 10, 12, they have sleepovers.
You know, Ronald, I have to admit, now that I've been in your treehouse, it's pretty nice. I mean, I will say there are spider webs and there are bugs and things to worry about, but it is pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. I mean, Art is such a character and such a great guy. You got to check out gooutandplaybuilders.com, and maybe you need a treehouse like I got.
Yeah, listen, when he was talking, I have to admit I was pretty impressed about the depth of knowledge, but what it also made me realize is how many people spend all this money to build a treehouse to never use it, or not realize the upkeep. You know what it reminded me of? Hot tubs. Another thing people spend tons of money on, they don't realize the upkeep, and they never use it. So click here if you want to learn about hot tubs, and we'll see you later. Ronald, catch you later, man.
See ya.